Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
This is another edition of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, and this is a brand new Bronco. And if you saw anything from SEMA, you know this is the hottest thing in the industry, and everybody wants to take the top off, Fred, once they get one of these, just like they do in the Jeeps. It can be a real hassle. This is about 100 pounds on the Bronco.
Correct.
So getting topless is not so simple,
Right.
but you have a solution, the same one you did for the Jeeps.
Absolutely. So going topless in 2 minutes or less, just like this one. So this one operates through body weight using a lever system upper.
And that's the original Top Lift Pro.
Correct.
You also have an upgrade to that, which is a motor.
You can add electric to this, and you can just, with the press of a button, take the top off.
It's usually a two-person operation, but with one finger you can remove it yourself. And what about storage? Where does the top go once you take it off?
So it'll store right in front of your Jeep or your Bronco, right over the hood. It's a great savings of space.
Uses the same footprint that your vehicle does.
Yes.
Now, a lot of folks have talked to you saying they're going to go to their vacation home, and yes, you can take the original Top Lift Pro with you, but it takes up some space. So
Correct.
You came up with a solution here. What's that?
We have the Venture Pro here. This one is just a collapsible version. It'll break down very easily. Everything's foldable up top, everything's foldable down below, and we take a couple of parts in between off, and then you go. But as you can see, everything you can just pop into place when you're going into the vehicle to take the top off. Unlike the original, with your hands, this one is a foot pedal design, and it has a 5-to-1 ratio for lifting capacity. So it's great for lightweight people to go ahead and lift a heavy object off their Jeep or Bronco.
20 pounds of pressure gets that Bronco top right off.
Yep.
Some math right there. Let's talk about adjustability, because every Jeep's different. People put different suspension and tires and wheels on it and everything
Correct.
like that. So how do you adjust it?
Simply enough, all you have to do is pull your pin, raise it up, lower it according to your wheel suspension height, and then once you enter the vehicle, then you can put your adjusting feet and prop them up according to where your roof height is. And then you can start to lift from that position.
You pull the cable there, that
Pull the
unlatches it. Oh man, that's simple. 100 pounds lifted like nothing. Very cool. And you whip that around to the front, you can store it in the garage.
And that's it. And we're also using the top to hold our large panel on a Bronco, because you don't want to move around that too much. You know, they become delicate if you fracture it or anything.
Sure. Yeah, so taking care of two birds with one stone right there.
Correct.
And speaking of that, the base on this looks just like the one on the Gladiator model.
Yes.
There as well.
So interchangeable, very important for families with Bronco, Jeep Wrangler, Jeep Gladiator. Now you can substitute the top with the same base, which is very, very important because we have many families with multiple SUVs.
So save you money, save you some time, and save you a big old hassle.
Absolutely, yes.
When people see this for the first time, their jaws drop. What kind of reaction are you getting from folks that actually buy one and start using it at home?
The biggest reaction we have from every customer is basically it's the best money they've ever spent on their Jeep, as opposing to other accessories that they have for the Jeep, which can get extremely expensive. I mean, $2,000 for a light bar.
Amazing. What kind of demand have you seen for the Top Lift Pro lately?
Oh, we're having a huge demand, especially during the COVID time. We've just are completely out, replenished, but at the same token, we spend a lot of time on quality control. Every one of these is top-notch. Our demand for quality is superb.
And I heard dealers are kind of nipping at your heels trying to get a hold of the
Dealers,
Top Lift Pro as well.
Yeah, dealers, especially with the Bronco now, is becoming a big, big deal. We're getting dealers that want to, roll this in with the price of the new Bronco and get it out the door because it's what sells hardtops.
Right.
And a hardtop with a Top Lift Pro is a lot easier than a rag top without a Top Lift Pro. So out the door, top off in 2 minutes or less, yeah, absolutely.
You can't beat it. What makes that open road, top-down lifestyle so popular?
People just want to be outdoors, let their hair down, and breathe the fresh air. Going to the beach, going to the mountains, enjoying the Blue Ridge Highway. It's all the same.
It's all about freedom, and you can get there a lot easier with Top Lift Pro. Check them out at topliftpros.com. You can check us out right after the break, because we'll be back with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. So don't go anywhere.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. MB Quart, premium performance audio. Warren Industries. When you go with Warren, you go prepared. Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system. And by BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration.
Thanks for tuning in to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. You know, a lot of cool products come from a gap in the market. Maybe there's a niche that needs to be filled, and this is a case here. Now, Pop and Lock, Jackie, filled a gap. What was it, and how did you do it?
Sure, yeah, that gap was a pretty big gap because way back in the day, truck tailgates did not have any lock on them, so people can easily get in and out. People were stealing things. People were taking the tailgates off the truck, stealing the actual tailgates. So Pop and Lock found that little market, that niche that was a need, and we filled it with something really simple at first, just a basic bracket that just kind of popped into the handle, locked that tailgate. And you know, when the tonneau cover boom happened, it was perfect married couple product line, because now you're having a complete covered storage area, but you can also secure it too, so nothing was being stolen.
I experienced the stolen tailgate myself. It's no fun. So this is the original about 30 years ago?
Yep, correct.
And that evolved into this unit here. Tell me about that.
So what started as a bracket, just an easy little pop-in, morphed into more of that full handle replacement. The Tacoma was one of our main ones that we did that with. You actually have to pop out the old handle and you put our new one in, and it's got either a normal lock, or we also utilize the bolt coatable lock, which was an awesome feature because it codes to the actual ignition key.
Excellent. And I know this is high quality stuff. You're not just some fly-by-night aftermarket company bolting stuff on. What do the OEMs think of what you're doing here?
They were definitely impressed. Obviously, what does well in the aftermarket eventually makes its way to the OEM world. So they saw how well our locks were doing, and they realized the need. So then they started putting locks on at the factory level. You started seeing, you know, just the basic key lock. Again, we still had a leg up because ours utilized the ignition key. Theirs did not. It was still an extra key or something like that.
And that necessitated the need for you guys to evolve.
Yes, yeah.
At Pop and Lock. So moving up to some of the other items, you mentioned stolen tailgates.
Yep.
And this will remedy that.
Yeah, so this product is really kind of cool. We call it our $20 insurance policy. Just goes on that right-hand side to cover the hasp, so somebody can't physically remove the tailgate. When that tailgate is removed in 10 seconds, there goes between $3,000 and $8,000 worth of money, because that tailgate is not easy to replace. You're gonna have to get it custom painted, and now with all the electronics in it, whether it be your sensors, your cameras, huge ticket price item that could have saved with 20 bucks right there.
Easy insurance. Love it. Now the fuel door here, tell me about that.
Fuel door was kind of recent. This came out a few years ago. It's for the JK. Again, we utilize that Bolt coatable lock. Bolt is actually just down 2 hours south of us, so we try and partner with them whenever we can. So lots of fuel doors on the market, but ours stands alone because we use that Bolt coatable, so you're using that ignition key, coding it to that, you're not having extra keys.
That's an established market, some of the newer markets, the UTVs and that sort of thing, and that would be this item.
That's this one right here. So that was a partnership a few years ago with a tonneau cover company that produced tonneau covers for the UTVs. Same concept, you've got a nice bed to store stuff, but they wanted to cover it, but cool, you can cover it, but it's not secured. So they came to us, and we developed a really easy hand lock that we could just bolt right into the handle. Same concept to secure that entire bed right there on the UTV.
Keeping it very simple. And you guys make this for a whole bunch of trucks.
Yes.
This is the power lock mechanism. For the rear tailgate, again, I get a little spooked when I have to do a lot of wiring. You've come up with a solution now for Toyotas, like the Tacoma we see behind us, so tell me about that.
Yeah, so before this, we had just normal power locks, so you're tapping into wires. Gets a little confusing with colors, it's intimidating for people. So some of the biggest feedback we always had was, how can we make the wire portion of the install easier? So just last year, we launched the new Toyota lock, which is the plug-and-play power lock, and it utilizes this plug-and-play T-harness, so there's no more splicing into any wires. You're simply plugging into the OEM ports and just plug into our other wire harnesses, and you're done. So it's super easy, makes it much more manageable, and it takes this big, scary wire install down to this very manageable process for any skill level.
And you mentioned you guys are in Wisconsin.
Yes.
So it's an American company, been around for 30 years. How much do you do actually for the OEMs themselves?
Our OEM relationship is more on the heavy duty side, so we supply all the lock sets and keys for them. That's our bread and butter, what we do is lock sets and keys, and it's all high quality stuff because we have OEM standards that we have to follow, so we translated that into our aftermarket companies with Pop and Lock, and all the same quality standards hold true there.
Pop and Lock can make your life a whole lot easier. They can make your vehicle a whole lot more secure. You can check them out at popandlock.net. We'll return with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings and more cool products like this when we come back. You are riding along with Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. And what if you're riding along and you notice your fuel mileage isn't as good as it used to be? Well, especially if your vehicle's a few years old, you might have an issue. What could the problem be, Adam?
Thanks, Dave. So actually one thing that's generally overlooked on a common tune-up is your oxygen sensor. And so over time, the sensors deteriorate, get contaminated, and ultimately affect performance and fuel economy.
And that can get worse and worse. How am I going to know that I've got a bad oxygen sensor?
Well, as I said, so not always will the check engine light come on right away, but you will notice maybe you're getting worse fuel mileage. You don't really notice the pep that your vehicle had at one point, or sometimes you may even notice a smell coming from the exhaust, and that's all indicators of a bad oxygen sensor.
So I could drive around and get crummy fuel mileage,
Correct.
Or I can make a quick change, and that's going to save me a lot of money in the long run.
Exactly. Actually, so with the cost of just replacing an NHOU sensor on a normal tune-up, could pay for itself over the lifetime of the sensor from increased fuel economy.
Well, let's talk about sensors here. You brought some in here from Walker Products. How do the sensors from Walker compare to what I would have on my original vehicle?
So Walker Products O2 sensors are actually designed to be exact OE replacements for fit, form, and function.
So what have you done to make sure the fit is like it should be?
So we designed them to be just exact like the OE. So they have dual OEM shield design, rolled threads for easier installation.
Okay, so you're not going to cross thread there. Instead of the real sharp edges on the threads, it's rolled?
Exactly.
Okay.
OE connector and exact wire length, so you're not going to end up with extra wire length that has to be zip tied or tied up somewhere along the underside of the vehicle.
And this is not like a universal thing. This is specifically made for your vehicle.
Right, so exactly what you would take off the vehicle is exactly what's going to go back on.
That's perfect. Now let's talk about the installation. What's that process like?
So the installation is actually pretty simple. Some basic steps. So you would first locate the faulty O2 sensor, whether it's from an OBD2 scanner. So it'll tell you whether it's upstream, downstream, bank 1, bank 2, that's left and right. Disconnect the battery. Lift and securely support the vehicle. Unplug the O2 sensor from the vehicle harness. Remove any clips or cable ties that may be securing it to the frame. And then simply just unthread it from the exhaust. You can even use one of the Walker Products specialty wrenches. When installing the new sensor, you would apply anti-seize to the threads so that it doesn't seize. Install by hand and then torque to 26 foot-pounds.
With any of these, it's 26 foot-pounds?
Yep.
Is that the same as it would be with the OE as well?
Correct. And so that torque rating actually is what's designed for the crush washer to seat properly, so there's no exhaust leaks.
Putting the new one in, you just reverse the process from taking the old one out.
Exactly, and especially since these are going to be exact like the OE, super simple.
Well, if you're noticing bad fuel economy in your vehicle, it's probably the O2 sensor. You can check out these and other engine management sensors at walkerproducts.com.
Time now for the lowdown with Magic Creeper.
If you haven't seen it, you're going to love our sister show. It's called Tech Garage. It's on Saturday mornings on Motor Trend. I co-host it with John Gardner. Now, he's a master technician. He is also a college professor, and that's where he gets to use the Magic Creeper, and he says his guys love it.
Well, Dave is an instructor at Chipola College. We don't have the luxury of a bunch of lifts. We have one here, but we have 25 students. And think about that for a minute. We have a class called Introduction, and a lot of that's just vehicle inspections. And with the ride height on vehicles today, creepers just don't work. So we get a bunch of Magic Creepers. We can put lessons together with different lesson plans and have 5, 10, 15 students relatively inexpensively just bam, get under the car, do the visual inspections, identify parts, come out, roll it up. The next student has it. We've had them for years. They work great because we have asphalt. Sometimes we have to put them in the grass. I mean, we're backed up. We don't have a problem rolling it. But creeper, number one, can't get under the car. And number two, on the surfaces, especially with the asphalt, it doesn't work very well. We're down here in Florida. It's so hot. Half the time the wheels are sinking down in the asphalt. That's how hot it is. But no, this is no problem. It gets under the cars, whether it's grass, whether it's cobblestone. We have rocks on our driveway, and we have some concrete surfaces. It doesn't make a difference.
How easy is the creeper to clean once you go through all this with the students?
The Magic Creeper's super easy to clean. We got 25 students, you know, it's like having 25 kids. They're not going to clean it. We've had some traditional creepers, and we use them in the weather. The wheels all rust. Some of them are wood. They rot and break. This one, we just wipe it off, roll it up, put it away. Sometimes they don't roll it up. They just hang it up. The next guy gets it out. They just dust it off. I mean, we got tools falling. These kids, they can't even puncture it. I mean, super durable.
Don't miss Tech Garage on Saturday mornings. And do not miss the conclusion of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, because when we come back, a really cool classic Corvette you are going to dig.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by Rod End Supply. We don't just sell them, we race them. Hot Wire Auto, we do the work so you can play. Tornador Tools, the must-have detailing tools. And by Dorman Products, driving new solutions.
We get a lot of requests here at Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Here's a segment from our old studio from a few months ago. This is the classic American automobile. It's a 1963 Corvette Stingray. It's the split window. They are hard to find. There were only 10,000 of them made, and to find one this good is pretty amazing. And just when you think this car can't get any better, oh, it can, because Billy is here from Corvette Correction, and you've made classic cars like this even better. First of all, what about a Corvette needs correcting in the first place?
Well, we started this business with the first generation car, and those need a lot of correction. These cars were pretty good cars. We have made them better by using our chassis and putting the C4 suspension underneath them. They had a lot of problems with rust in these cars because people drive them in the snow and the ice and salt and what have you, but it is a pretty cool car.
Technology has changed.
Oh yeah, you know, all the stock control arms were stamped steel control arms. They were heavy. They had a kind of a poor setup on the rear suspension. This has gone to a 4-link rear suspension. It's all aluminum stuff. It's forged. Well, you don't have that in the later 5, 6, or 7 cars. That's one of the reasons we use the C4 stuff. It is stronger and it's nice and light.
You're using better materials, lighter materials, and really a better design in a lot of ways. So what are some of the details? Let's go from the front to the rear, some of the things you paid attention to.
Okay, well, for one thing, you get rack and pinion steering. And we use the whole front cradle just like GM designed it, so you don't get bump steering in the corners and stuff like that. And we incorporated that into our first generation chassis, now our second generation chassis. Of course, we do pickup trucks and Tri-5s too. But this system works so well, and GM did so many dollars worth of engineering. I mean, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the money to do that. So I just copied their stuff. You know, we put all the hard points in the same place in the back, and it works.
No, you're being humble. I mean, you did copy the mounting points, so you're able to take your existing car and drop it right on this chassis.
Yeah, we use all the same body mounts at, you know, same location as they are stock.
But you have a few places where you reinforce, like right here in the transition.
Yeah, in this transition area, that was one of the big problems we had trying to develop this frame where it's stronger than the stock frame. And what we do in this area right here is we use a piece of this 3x4 3/16 wall tubing.
Same as the cross member there?
Same as that cross member. Inside this box, it goes from here to here and it welds in, and then this box slides over the top of it and then it's welded in, and then it transitions into this area right here. It's a triangle piece that we put on this 3x4 box tubing to give it more rigidity.
So it keeps it from flexing in this direction.
We're trying to keep the flex out of the cars, and we've been able to do that successfully with reinforcing this box. The first one I didn't put the box in there, and it had less flex than the original frame, but it was still more than I wanted.
You're always testing and
yeah, and you know,
doing some R&D.
The prototype was, you know, it worked, but it didn't work as well as these do.
Right, and your engineering mind went to work, and you did things like that, and you also added the gussets there that we see.
Yeah, we put gussets in the corners of everything but the prototype frame, and that helps this whole area just really be strong.
What about exhaust? I know a lot of times cross members, you've got to work your way around it, and people always think of exhaust last. I get that complaint from engine guys anyway. Exhaust is an afterthought, but you've thought of that and you've taken care of that.
We have, and we didn't drop our cross member down low because we didn't want to put holes through it. We wanted to keep it pretty rigid, so we run the exhaust under the cross member, which still is higher than it was in the stock car because the other cross member dropped down and had holes in it. So we're under the cross member, and then we go under the rear end And in lots of cases, like in that car, we bring them out the center, more modern looking. You can still take them out the stock holes, or, you know, we've had people put side pipes on these cars too, which affects none of this stuff underneath.
Last time you were here, you brought a 62 that was immaculate, and I still tell people it's the best car I've ever driven. You mind if I take this one for a spin?
No, you need to.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Billy, this car is amazing. It looks incredible, and it drives just as well. I know the burning question from people is, what are they going to have to do to their car? How much are they going to have to cut it up to mount it to one of your frames?
Not a lot. I mean, just take those two jack welds out behind the seat here, and we have a fiberglass panel that glues right in there. And that's the only thing you have to do. The body will fit right on the frame other than that. And the only reason we have to do that is because the bigger pumpkin, what have you.
Gotcha. Well, this thing is amazing and handles as well as any new car I have ever driven. You really got a winner here. And anybody with a classic Corvette, with a Tri-5 or Chevy truck, you're going to want to check out Corvette Correction, because everything starts with a really good foundation, and this is a really good foundation, Billy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is, I've had guys drive these cars that own C7s, you know, 16s and 17s, and they said, we'll sell our car, just have one of these instead.
Well, like I said, you've hit a home run here. This is amazing. You can check it out at CorvetteCorrection.com. Man, what a way to start off 2022. We've got a whole lot more planned for this season, so be sure to tune in next week for Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. A special episode next week as we come to you from the PRI show in Indianapolis. See you then.